one's game, and in GOATs, that's perfect for them.
And Square One right now, I mean, Jolf has been having quite a game, hot date as well. I feel like, honestly, the players on Square One haven't even really been shining as much as they would if they had more pressure put upon them. Right now, you know, it seems a little bit, you know, kind of like, and maybe, you know, it's a little bit sitting back on your heels, waiting to see what comes your way. And second generation is certainly not afraid. I love this. From changing up that rule book, Shadows on the Widowmaker, who he is amazing at, by the way. Eclipse actually going to be working some of that Ana aim with the Hanzo, although he'll have to wait for the second
He aimed right
round.
back to spot. Yeah, he's aiming his Hanzo right back to spot, but look at this, Shadows coming back. This is where second generation really started to pop off last week, was on Assault, because again, the characters just lend themselves better to this, and it's so good that they're coming off of this GOATS comp, because I still don't believe that they're going to beat Square One at that game. And they're just one of the better GOATS teams in this group, potentially in Contenders. Second generation, though, still in this on this defensive side. Square One have time to come back, though.
Yeah, second generation is all about that pick style composition. There's no way that they can really pressure this point. So Boger is essentially just buying time for Shadows and Eclipse and Sox to find those key picks.
And so Boger going to get the D-Mech and the kill onto Angelic, so this offense might be stopped in its tracks. Jolf's going to be giving all of that ult charge over to second generation, who have 5 ultimates.
Yeah, here's the thing, second generation, those ultimates can be hit or miss, though. It's not always going to be a clean grab like you would if you're running something like a Zarya, but BitBop now has another chance to make that EMP felt with this Sombra. Square One have to change up almost everything.
Square One are on the defensive side. The left side's always going to start on that side. So second generation have a ton of ultimates and the infrared sights. That's just vital in order how to come in here. It's going to give Sox an opening to safely rocket barrage. Sox knew exactly where everyone was, and now second generation might be looking at a really quick point B take.
Just saying that EMP is not a great catch-up kind of ultimate, but second generation, honestly, just a win more situation at this point. Eclipse just 9% away from those dragons. They could choke off all of the re-engagement routes for Square One, but nope. Between Shadows and Sox, second generation nearly there with that clean take.
Jolf, though, trying to make things interesting. It might not be that full clean take just yet as hot date, and Jolf still on the objective. Second generation unable to take them off. We're seeing 2 marbles. It's like magnets, right? Go against each other, but second generation still in control. Big Ol has switched over to that Genji to try to make himself available for the objective. But second generation, this is good news for them. That's how you take tempo into your own hands. We were talking about that, right? Playing Square One's game. Square One didn't get to play a game that time around.
No, a desperation hamster to try and come back and contest the point. It's with those heavy DPS compositions, there's a moment where the ultimates kind of hit a tipping point, right? It's much more successful for a heavy DPS comp to all press Q and just throw those ultimates out into the ether than it is for those tank ultimates, because tank ultimates rely on capitalization. You got to go and follow through. With second generation, that is pure damage. So Sox opening with a barrage, brilliant. As long as you catch one person, you're doing your job.
You want to grab that second one, and then if you go like 1 for 2, right? I love that deal. Right?
Yeah.
If you give 1 of anything and receive 2, that's good math.
That's quality value. As brought, today's match brought to you by some numbers.
Yeah.
1 and second.
Yeah, 1 and second bringing you this match. Square One potentially Rock and Dove on that Sombra. That's something that we have seen in the past. Second generation on the defensive side, they like what they see. Eclipse, though, gonna be on the Ana. This is the map that made that red Eclipse. So, is history going to repeat itself?
I hope so.
Or are we waiting for the next Eclipse?
I think this is definitely Eclipse's time to shine. He's been on the Zenyatta for quite a while, but Ana is, potentially his first love, certainly one of my first loves to see him on. So, Sombra for Shadows, BitBop this time around on the Zarya. So really like it. You have, a lot of frontal brawling potential here, but you always have a backdoor as well with the Sombra.
Oh, that's cool. So basically, they teleported up. If there was an easy hook to be had, they could get that pick and then continue on to the objective, but no one was in that position.
So it's back to Goats for square one. Back to square one.
That'll work one day.
Oh, eventually. I don't know. I think we'll all be dead by that point.
It's a square one trying to stay alive themselves on their attacking side. And they have a huge time bank from second generation to look at. They want to take this really quickly. Second generation, we're stalled out a little bit here on point A, so they can make up some time by taking a quick point A. And they're going to go ahead and jump onto the other side. Jolf showing that you don't need the charge to get to the other side of the high ground. Maybe saving that cooldown for something else. They push second generation off, and right now, Square One have found themselves on the objective already 1, maybe 2 ticks. Second generation have to come back and attack themselves. Ooh. Square One aren't going to attack and leave the objective, so second generation need to take matters into their own hands, and they're going to take some deaths, but Jolt going down on the other side makes this a little even, but Square One up 5-4 in terms of numbers. They're so close to capping this point.
Very, very close. Boger was actually doing so well for himself. You see that 90% up to that Earth Shatter is very impressive for a Reinhardt, but the way that Square One played the game very patiently and more importantly kept Big All's eyes to their backline. He forced Shadows out of that fight with a shield bash, so things could have actually been even more deadly for second generation had that Sombra stayed around. So good heads up play by Square One.
Yeah, Big All going to use that rally. Hot take is hacked, but Dove so close to that grab. He's going to go ahead and launch. He's got really high energy, but a good purple coming from Eclipse going to take Dove down. Hammered down, Eclipse is on the ground. Going to go ahead and use the pin to do it. That's 3 kills for Square One. Boger is nano. This is going to cause some trouble for Square One, but is it enough trouble? No, he's going to get sent right back to jail. Caused too much trouble there.
Felty forced to do a win. Sound barriers only himself, but he has bought enough time for BitBop to get back on here with that Doomfist. Crucially, Shadows still has the EMP. So again, if you take Square One off tempo, second generation still haven't engaged.
Only 2 members get hacked, and there's a self-destruct there. Actually, you could see that happen. Everyone came through. Sombra was vulnerable to the self-destruct, but Sox and Eclipse find themselves victimized by it as well. Second generation had an opportunity to come back with that EMP, but Square One knew again exactly how to deal with it. Square One finished the map in pretty much the same time second generation did. We might be seeing 6 points here.
Oh man, welcome to 6 CP. I believe it's 1 second. Yeah, 1 second separates these two sides. Yeah, love this parity though. I really like the fact that second generation have not been deterred at all, right? That was a tough loss on Blizzard World. Really hard stuff. You know, you try to go for, you know, this off-meta composition that you practice, you feel like you've worked on it, but rolling into Volskaya, they're like, you know what? I think we've tightened things up. We've learned from some of the stuff that we did before the half, and we're gonna run it again.
So I'm gonna throw a question at you.
All
so
right.
it's a little spicy. So if second generation was playing the exact same way and their name was XL2, right? How would you consider this, right? Because I think sometimes with these Path to Pro teams, we give them a lot of leeway, right? But right now, it's like XL2 is performing pretty much exactly the same second generation did in their last round. They also had a 2-second advantage. You know, there's 1 second here. Like, are we pressuring XL2 a little too much? Are we being a little too light on second generation? What do you think?
I don't know. If you had said that on Blizzard World, I would say that second generation definitely falling to the same kind of, you know, trip-ups as XL2 did. But here on Volskaya, I think it looks a lot different, right? So you have the crossfire set up between Eclipse on Hanzo and Shadows on the Widowmaker, and not only do you have Shadows on the Widowmaker, but he's able to execute so well with that hero. And then you roll into, again, how many times did we say it during the XL2 game? On paper, they should hold this, right?
Yep.
And XL2, they rolled into point B, and on paper, they should have taken it. 5 ultimates, and they did. You know, stringing together those couple of wins, like we had the Pharah come in, and it's so easy to hesitate, right? Because Pharah is such, you know, you say, press Q to respawn. But you come in, you have an early barrage. It was such an early barrage, you know, Square One wasn't really expecting it either. The second generation, I feel like they are making active changes to their playstyle.
All right, cool. So second generation. Well, there's also the question of support and having an academy team. But if that wasn't there, right, I think those two teams right now performing similarly, which is pretty crazy to say. Square One, though, performing more similarly to Envy on their time around, as Envy did have to attack second on their Volskaya. They did end up making that a W for them. Square One on match point.
Dove, I don't know about the McCree, don't know about the Widowmaker, but honestly, Square One can just continue to play the GOATS game as they have, and it's up to second generation to rebuff them. That's always going to be what you need to do proactive game every time you have a Sombra online, because her positioning and whether or not she's actually in the fight, chipping in with that damage, throwing out those hacks, is a crucial part of this, Sombra Goat's playstyle. If you get force an early translocate, if you destroy her translocator, you can guarantee that second generation will be playing a man down for the next few seconds.
Jolf, keep trying. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Nancy Kerrigan said that.
I don't know if she was thinking about massive pig murderers with their hooks, but principle stands.
But Nancy Kerrigan did not say that. I love attributing quotes to the wrong people.
Oh.
I don't know why. It was Wayne Gretzky for anyone at home, not Michael Scott or Michael Jordan.
We've all learned something today.
Square One is going to go ahead and start off their attack. Jolf, again, I hope you keep trying on that Roadhog. Eventually it will work. You're going to get an invisible Sombra. Sometimes they're going to go ahead and move their brick onto the high ground. That was a scary situation for Square One, but they are on the attacking side, so they do have an ability to cede a little bit of space, be patient, and come back in here again. The Big All already using that shield bash cooldown, and it's going to be back here soon. Hot Take getting that kill onto Boger, so this is opening things up for Square One. They had an easy point A take last time, and it looks like history will repeat itself.
Unfortunately, Boger getting cut off by the charge of Jolf, which, only found some air, but that meant that Boger wasn't within line of sight of second generation. We'll give it credit to Jolf's positioning. Second generation losing their Rhine and their Brigitte in a very quick fashion, but they have banked up some ultimates for this next defense. Eclipse very close to that Transcendence. Boger just 5% away from that Shatter, but the crucial ult, Shadow's EMP right now, 22% away. Oh,
Jolf's going to get that kill, so this is 6v5 for Square One. Felty trying to push in some damage into the back line, but that means he's not with the rest of the team, and they might have needed them in that situation. Maybe Antidot's not back. Maybe they don't need heals for now. Felty, though, on his own, that could have been precarious for him. Square One was a little bit more accurate there. Transcendence now coming through. The EMP going to open things up. That's what you want to see from second generation. That's how you win these fights, but Square One knowing exactly what to do, but not for long as Shadow's getting that kill. But on the other side of things, Square One have not given up. We talked about grit in the last game. They're definitely showing theirs. But now that the numbers are getting into second generation's favor with respawns, Square One will have a small window to take this.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty good re-engagement with that sound barrier. Unfortunately, didn't catch Ultraviolet, so the trance was still available. Now, Angelic already 13% away from yet another sound barrier here. Second generation need to start finding some kills with this time they're buying.
Square One, though, finding the kills themselves. Eclipse on Doomfist. That's how you know this is desperation. Second generation unable to get anyone on at the point for much longer than a couple seconds. Square One do finish this off. They get their 4 points.
Attack definitely working out better for both of these teams than the defense.
It's kind of the story of Contenders, in my opinion, is really good offenses and then just, middling, average to, to bad defense, right? We're seeing that defensive struggle here. We definitely saw it on Monday. I think there was something in the water on Monday particularly. I don't think that's going to carry over. Envy played some good defense today. And so hopefully this defensive side of things does get a little bit better because the offenses have been popping off.
At a certain point, it's so much easier to just put a stop to things than continue the never-ending question of, could we get another point? Let's keep going. But you look at the way that the aggression has worked out for Envy in that last push in particular. Big All pops rally, and we just rush in. Right? We're not waiting for the sound barrier. We're going to get EMP'd anyways. But what we can do is force Boger to put up that shield. He's not doing any damage. He can't possibly shatter, getting pressured with all of that frontal aggression by Square One. That's exactly how we saw it play out. And then EMP ended up being just a catch-up ultimate, which again was well-timed. However, it just wasn't enough.
Square One seems to know exactly what to do with the Sombra. The best... Is it like their practice against Sombra, or maybe the Sombra coming from the other side is being a little bit more predictable from some of the top tier Sombras we have, like Buds on Skyfox, who we're going to be seeing on our next game. Square One, though, they're sitting pretty, but not for long. Joel's going to be sitting back in spawn. Eclipse, hey, that's some good revenge. He did that last time on their side, but this time he's going to find that monkey, and look at him go, 18 to 32% on that Dragon Strike. And point A on Volskaya has become a point that you cap so quickly recently. We're going to see that again.
I mean, especially when your snipers are finding heads like Shadows and Eclipse. Hot diggity. I am loving this DPS play from second generation. This is a totally new look, and you know, it's working out very well. Square one, you could tell that Jolf wasn't expecting for that arrow to find his dome when he overextended like that, but that is the consequence. Big all, big all.
Big all with a big hook, and he's going to be trying to find some meat. Second generation has a rocket barrage at the ready, and the Dragon Strike will be too. That's a really good combo. Bitmop getting killed to start things off is interesting, but Square One are able to bring things back. I would have liked for them to use the Dragon Strike and rocket barrage at the same time, so the environment is a little bit more in your favor, but we don't see that.
It's really good cover to keep that Pharah safe, and oh, you hear those crisp dinks. Alas, Shadows, with the rest of his teammates falling around him, he is going to have to back up, or else he's going to be, it's going to be dinner for all these big tanks.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Widow is in a spot like she is because she's going against those tanks because he's making contact. We've gotten those infrared sights a couple times, and Shadows is doing work, but right now I think we're looking at a team comp that's a little bit better than the other. Ultraviolet on the Moira is a really great way to keep himself safe. Also, really good way to keep Sombra in check. If you see the vision, you have that right click on, you know exactly where she is.
And good adaptation from Hot Date as well, expecting an early barrage this time around. He saw him gobble up all of Sox's rockets.
EMP is through, Coalescence is there. Second generation taken low, but not out of this just yet. Hot Date needing the Coalescence to make sure that he gets back into that mech, taken dangerously low. But second generation unable to make any ground here.
No, the pellets from those snipers, not quite enough to cut through these beefy bodies this time around as Big All searching for the hook. Searching, he's looking.
A little too far south. And hey, the Moira coming into play there. Look at that.
Yeah.
Holding right click. It's FFA all over again. My nightmares.
Oh my goodness. Aren't you the one who usually plays Moira though? Boop.
How could you? And so second generation now does have proximity mines, and I would like for them to work their environment a little bit better. They've got Shadows and Sox. You can set them up at different places, set up a crossfire there. Boger can take a lot of attention away too, but Big All is actually a really great way to counter Boger on that hamster.
Very good way you get a hook onto the ham and take him out of the fight, essentially. And Eclipse, too, has to be very careful. Nobody will be protecting him.
Ooh, good mind drop from Boger, but it's not going to be enough. It's the shield's going to be enough to take over those mines. Going to walk right through them, Square One ahead. Now it might be time to think about a different composition.
You took the words right out from my mouth, Boop. This is, you've gave it, 3-4 good goes. You worked through those ultimates.
The old college try.
Exactly. But, Eclipse on this Zenyatta with no main tank. There we go. Boger swaps onto the Reinhardt with no main tank to protect him from Big All. This Roadhog is so chunky. He could literally just walk right through second generation, hook the Zenyatta, and take him out of the fight. And that's something that you don't want to leave up to chance. You're at least going to play that shield game, that breakage game. But second generation may have a trump card in Bitbop's EMP. So, again, this is a great opener. It'll give Eclipse the time, to work up to that last, couple of percentage points to get that trance.
But second generation are playing with a single card, though. That's unfortunate. If I'm Gambit on the X-Men and I had one card, and it was Bitbop's, I'd be feeling
exactly.
pretty nervous
It's like
about
a
my
2
team.
of aces, too.
Yeah, exactly. And so the Graviton Surge, EMP, Sound Barrier, all coming out. 4 members of Square One hacked, but that has not been a death sentence for them. I think other teams should look at this and see how they're surviving the Sombra, because every other team that has come against, a capable Sombra has not been able to deal with this. Or they see the MP and they're like, all right, we lost. Let's go to the next one.
It is kind of one of those moments where you have to make that split-second decision. How much are we investing? But again, as good of that EMP as Shadows had, he didn't catch the Moira, so then Coalescence comes in. There are actually quite a few ways to, rebound back from that EMP, and Square One have been, able to find that line so far. But Eclipse now has the trance. He might have to use it right now.
That's how you know that person plays D.Va, the way that the self-destruct does come out, causing discord in the backline of second generation, in which Square One does try to feast upon, and they're going to continue feasting. Jolf must be pretty hungry. This Reinhardt is a big reason why Square One is being successful, but, I kind of consider Square One kind of like the first generation of the Golden State Warriors, but right before the Dynasty. The reason why I say that was no one really knew who a lot of those players were. It was before Curry was, like, super famous, right?
Yeah.
And they were just a team with really good teamwork. Not a ton of stars, but they still won.
Yeah, they made a name for themselves through that duration of a couple of first seasons. The second generation right now still hoping for a little bit of that glory. They have no big engage besides Boger's Earth Shatter. But with the way that Ultraviolet and Angelic have been playing very safe in the backline, you're probably not going to catch a support.
Shadows, though, going down is going to hurt the big second generation. Also investing the Earth Shatter for nothing. Eclipse now has to use the Transcendence just to keep his team in this game. Square One sitting pretty on the brink of capturing this match.
And Big All was the one who took down Shadows in that fight. And again, just really good play from this Brigida. They originally designed Brigida, obviously, as that backline protection in a response to dive, right? I'm so tired of playing Zenyatta. All I do is get dove and die. Well, here's a Brigida. She ended up taking, a place of one of those frontline brawlers, setting up those bash shatter combos and so on and so forth. But so it's, sometimes rare to see the Brigida hang back, at least, keep like the right eye peeled to see if anybody's, coming in trying to do some hacking shenanigans. And he's been able to shut down BitBop's Sombra more times than once.
Did you know that dolphins could do that?
Move their eyeballs independently?
Yeah. Exactly. They can actually shut off a certain part of their brain. I'm sorry, I was on Wikipedia last night. Dolphins are actually pretty crazy.
Is it so that they can continually rest their brains while still having enough brain power to go up to breathe?
Maybe, but
whales do that.
But another really cool thing is when a dolphin gets attacked, it can shut off the pain receptors of that part of their body. So like if a shark attacks them, they just won't feel it because they're able to feed themselves medicine and shut off that part of their brain.
If only I had that to keep myself from being so salty.
And if XL2 and second generation had that, they'd be feeling a little less pain as well as going somewhere with that. I was just hoping you would say that.
Aw, well, I mean, sometimes you need to get that salt. It fuels you, right?
Right?
Pushes you further. Because second generation, although they didn't, end up winning out Volskaya,
it was close.
It was much closer than the first two games.
Yep, I completely agree with that. Adjustments were made. And I just think, again, if I were to compare XL2 again from second generation, was XL2 had just not that intention, right? We talked about intention, and a really good way to describe that for those who might be a little confused by what we're talking about is even if you think something is wrong, right, you go 100% in it, because 100% a team going into the wrong thing is much better than 80% going one way and 20% going the other because you're not quite sure. Yeah,
XL2 didn't really have anybody to rally around. And second generation, while, they're excuse me, while, their plays are still in flux, it's obvious that, with the amount of DPS that they're running, with, putting Boger on Hammond, there is going to be a bit of that focus in terms of, who's going to be popping ult first. Let's all keep our eyes right there. If the EMP manages to come through, what's going to be next? Everybody has been, much more on the same page for second gen.
Yeah, I think the intent is definitely there, and that comes down to comms, it comes down to relationships. There's a lot that can be going on when it comes to that. And sometimes you just get spanked by a team like Envy, right? That's a thing that happens. And so Square One, Big All on the Roadhog. This is happening. I guess they must have liked what they saw on Volskaya.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Not sure about the BitBops Orisa, though.
Hey, so now that you're singing, I do want to tell the folks at home that Ham has been singing Disney songs and Gregorian chant recently. So we're going to go ahead and hear that a little later at a more appropriate time because the game has started. There's actually Roadhogs on both sides. Look at Shadows go. 2 kills. That's a really good way to stop this up-post defense.
It's a good way to stop the Gregorian chant, too. You just take their heads off and no more singing for you. Big All. Man alive. Shadows. Oh, just keep on rolling, man. This is what we were talking about. That intention. Second generation absolutely have someone to rally around right now, and his name is Shadows.
Oh, man, you don't want this kind of shadow to follow you around. That is absolutely
I'd be scared of this shadow.
I know, right? And so second generation all have infrared sights, and now that Square One is restaging, and it's actually something that Goats doesn't have to really deal with. The stage is good. They know where they're coming in, but they're functioning as a ball. So it's really for the other members of the team to kind of position themselves appropriately. But they are going to go ahead and go down good sleep on to Dove, who's pretty low on that ult charge right now.
Yeah, only 25%. Probably doesn't really have that much energy either as the re-engagement does come in. Square One want to fight in Car Wash, but that means that these purples will find a lot of value. Eclipse ready with that nano. Who's it going to go on to? Chronodota, who is now in for Boger, could take up a lot of space or apply it to Sox now on this. Pharah has the barrage. Just keep him from taking a free trip to respawn when he presses Q.
nanoing and opening there. Really great way to get the full value of that barrage, and you're seeing exactly why. Angelic going down. Earth Shatter will be next from Jolt. Will they be able to get Pip-Pop out of mech? It looks like they will, so this is actually anybody's game right now. Valkyrie going to get popped out. Shadows is down, but is going to get rezzed, and so they're going to be able to have that Widowmaker play-making potential. This is something you don't see with Goat. Shadows can put the team on his back. Jolt is down, and is already clicking those heads. Look at that. Angelic is going to go down as well. So second generation on. Some good Widowmaker play going to be coming back in this fight. They're going to own this payload. Unfortunately, they have already lost this map as the momentum really does seem to be going onto their side. Lost the match. Hot Date, though, with that self-destruct. This has been a long fight, Ham.
This is a real war of attrition. You wouldn't consider that when you think about dive. Felty, though, does go down, so that's a crucial piece of healing gone for second generation. Sox will be flying naked, Shadows as well, so you see them ceding that space. Again, though, with these compositions, as well as an individual player is popping off, it's so hard to, find that momentum where you can actually get some distance on the cart against the tanks of Square One, who have been, brawling things out very well, trying not to expose themselves to the sight lines of Shadows and Sox.
Square One also showing why this comp is just in that war of attrition. You said it, Dive. Dive usually doesn't do that. Second generation isn't going to be able to win a long fight like that ever. Square One eventually just went over a certain point of no return and were able to just outlast second generation. There wasn't enough throughput damage. The Rock Barrage had already been used.
And in order to get at these tanks, you got to go play ground fire, and already in the meantime, ChronoDota is down.
All right, Lesser Farah probably would have used that Rocket Barrage there, but now it's up to Hot Date to make sure that it doesn't happen. Good defense matrix, but it's and it's gonna be enough. Dub taking Sox down. Maybe they're looking at some character changes, but again, I just can't help but feel bad for Shadows. He's playing really, really well. It's just, again, I think this is a team comp issue. This
is a composition issue at this point. You saw how Sox had to put his body on the line in order to find line of sight with Square One's tanks. And then there's so many barriers that there's very little those rockets can do. ChronoDota himself taken incredibly low, does manage to stay alive, but this means second gen, this is their last shot at the cart.
Yeah, and they're not even close to the first point, because if they do take down Square One, they're going to be able to come back for a second defense. So second generation want to wipe them here. Hot Date using that self-destruct. Self-destruct coming on the other side, but Jolt going to use the Discord cause from the self-destruct to take down Jolt. Hot Date going to be going back and trying to focusing down the Winston of ChronoDota, who used the Primal Rage last fight, interestingly, but this another interesting thing was that Graviton Surge, but doesn't need it right now. Square One sitting pretty on the payload. Second generation not going to be able to see the second point of Gibraltar.
Unlucky, just again, you see all of this individual mechanical skill from second generation. Unfortunately, Square One, again, was playing chess, and second generation was, playing duck hunt, but unfortunately it wasn't ducks, it was beefy tanks. Beef is what's for dinner.
I would have gone with hopscotch.
Hopscotch?
Yeah.
Or jump rope?
Yeah.
What was your favorite playtime
I didn't have any
activity?
friends, so I kind of just played by myself.
Well, isn't that what tetherball's for?
Yes, thank you for making me feel better about my life.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to the person who literally just sat on monkey bars all day long. So.
No, I would say it's the, I forget what it's called, I'm blanking on it. It's the
Floor
super
is
fast.
lava. Oh.
No, it's the super fast spinny thing.
Oh, the tilt-a-whirl thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one where you hang on, and if your grip just loses it, you get launched away. That was super fun.
And it was super dangerous because kids would get their arms and legs stuck in the thing,
right?
And then they couldn't come free from the spinning.
There was actually, this was really cool. This is how old school, it's showing our age a little bit. When I was in second grade, they installed, no lie, a trebuchet on our playground. We were doing a unit. Yeah, it was super small, but they didn't think about the fact that we were going to put rocks and stuff in there, right? Just to see how far things would go. But that wasn't the last thing, right? What made them take the trebuchet off was someone took another kid's shoe and shot it over the fence, and that is why they took it away.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Minorities, whatever school district, Virginia.
It was in Hinesville, Georgia at the time, in Fort Stewart. I'm an Army brat myself. Square One trying their best to play a team game and not tetherball.
No, there is going to be a big pig on the field, though. Big all with the Roadhog. I'm really liking this, though. It's a fresh flavor, regardless. Although, after taking a peek, second generation has Shadows on the Sombra once again. We are going to see Jolf swap onto the Reinhardt and bag all back onto the Predator. But it was interesting for 3.4 seconds.
Second Generation going to try to get this up-close defense to work, but it's falling apart at the seams right now. Square one, Hot Date, maybe the only victim is the mech, but no, they're just going to be able to give their support some more ult charge, and there's not a lot of room to give if you're Second Generation.
No, the car has barely made it past Car Wash, so we're looking at maybe one more good engagement by Second Generation, but Shadows this time around very close to that EMP. Has been working on it very hard, 75%, so there is a shot. Somebody's going to need to buy him the time.
Well, they might only have one fight left. If Square One are able to take this, they're going to take this map and sweep them 4-0. They have to win, and that's not how you start things off. Sox pulled up a little too high, a little too tight. Square One, though, feeling really good. Another little soliloquy. I was a teacher for a bit, and I was teaching marching band, and there is one indicator of a kid that might struggle in marching band, too.
High socks?
They had to have both. They had to have transition lenses and super high socks. If they had both, you know you're going to spend some individual time with that child.
I think you're talking about me. I feel personally attacked right now, Boop.
I'm sorry, that wasn't meant to be about lizard people. And so that's going to be it for Square One. Do sweep 4-0, but that's not going to be it for Contenders today. We actually have the game of the day coming up next, which is Sky Foxes and Energy. If we were talking about good samba, you're going to see one with Buds. And at this point, though, the other side might have already practiced it, but Energy struggled last week as well.
Yeah, there are definitely moments. I mean, Ultraviolet finding Shadow's heads as one of the opening kills in that fight kind of just spoke to, you know, how these teams have gotten used to playing against Sombras now that you see them much more commonly. It's not just the Brigidas taking care of those pesky backline hackers, but the Zenyatta's standing up for themselves too. So Skyfox's Buds, you know, he may have his work cut out for him.
Let's see if he's going to be able to cut it out. Buds. That Sombra's got to be popping if you're going to take that victory, but we got to get there because I'm really excited to watch it. We'll see you in 6 minutes.